Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Lea Thompson is an actor. She sat down with me in the Lower East Side of Manhattan to talk about the work. Is there like a process you have, a general process of starting the craft of getting into a role?
Yeah, I do. And it's different for every project because I've had the great fortune of doing lots of different styles of work as an actor. So it's kind of different for each style. It always starts for me with the script. I always first really try to figure out what I'm servicing for the story, and try to find the best way to do that. And I think that that's a really smart way to approach material, because you, especially in a feature, you will get cut out if you don't service a story. You really have to be there. You know, if you're just doing your own movie, you're in trouble. Like, you need to help them with the story. And sometimes I move backwards from, as I read it, I find the most important moment, like what I'm really doing there and what is the most important moment. And I always try to front load that moment. It sounds
What does that mean,
obvious.
front load it?
Front load it. Like, say the biggest moment is, say I see the real reason I'm there in that story is to make the lead character find the truth about who he is. Yeah. I front load it, and in every scene that I do, I make sure that I add that look, or I add that I'm trying to tell him the truth. I'm trying to tell him the truth. I'm trying to tell the truth. You don't even have to do it with words. You can just do it with your intention, like why you're there, what's your reason to be there, why you're doing that. And that's more important, obviously, for a supporting part. If you're the lead, they can't cut you out and you're just wandering through the story, trying to tell the story. But if you're a supporting part, it's really important. And and I can take some of my bigger roles that people would obviously know and kind of show you how I did that.
I'm already thinking of that.
Yeah.
Like, as you're saying that,
yes.
I'm seeing you doing that.
Yeah, and it really helps you stay in the movie. They can't cut you out because you're supporting the story in such a way that's essential. And that's a kind of a selfish reason to do it, but it's not even selfish. It's your job to help tell the story the best way possible. And oftentimes, weirdly, the director and the writer sometimes don't even know what they wrote. They don't even know what they're so exhausted by the time they get there. I've seen movies that are completely written like a love story. And they're like, no, it's not a love story. They're not in love with each other. And I'm like, but no, you wrote the moments. They're all there. Even the words, but they've somehow convinced themselves, which is a detriment. Sometimes that's a great thing about coming into a project, is you can tell them what they wrote. Like, This is what you wrote. I'm just here to support that. It's frustrating in a series because they have different writers, and you'll do a whole show about how you hate the color gray, and then the next show you're wearing gray and you're like, I love gray, and you're like, wait, you guys just made me sell that I hate gray, but now you want me to love gray? Like, why are you doing that? I feel like a liar. They don't care. So that can be frustrating in a series.
And do you actually have that conversation, like, come on guys, this is not my character? After 3 years of doing something, and a new writer comes, or even a new director's directing you out of the
No, super frustrating. And it's super stupid now, because people they used to be able to say, like, oh, it was a week, they forgot it. Now everybody binge watches, so they watch series, we were right. They were stupid. Like, you lose the audience when the character does something out of character. It was such a great learning ground when I did a sitcom for 5 years, when I did Caroline in the City, 100 episodes of Caroline in the City, because the sitcom's like a little play every week, obviously. Right. So what I really learned from that was really powerful was that if you confuse the audience with story, if they're confused, they won't laugh because they're thinking about the story. They're stuck. If you do something out of character, they won't laugh because they're like, wait, that's out of story. Like, that's not right. And also the idea that less is definitely more. Like, less story makes the story clearer, which makes no sense. You always think, like, how like you go to a bad restaurant and they've put everything in it and the food doesn't taste good. There's capers, there's anchovies, there's feta cheese and sun-dried tomatoes, and by the time you're done,
it could be all the things you love too.
Everything. And they just think because there's more, it's going to taste better, but it's not true. That less story makes things clearer and more enjoyable in a lot of sense.
So you learned that as an actor, just not with your directing hat on yet.
No, but that's the thing about acting. Unfortunately, you have to be, director-proof and writer-proof in order to be good.
Oh, I like that.
You really do. Unfortunately, you have to have your mind on all of that, because a lot of times, the writing can be really bad, and you have to be able to figure out how to navigate that, because there's no way to be only the greatest actors can do the worst writing and still be good. And most of the time, you can fix it with little tiny tweaks, like the very smallest of tweaks. You'll see people do, without even changing the words. They'll be like, let me see, I hate going home. I hate going home. You can make that a lot of different ways. You could be and you can do it with the tiniest little bit of a word that you didn't say. Like, I hate going home, or it's almost like you can say other sentences just in a breath, or a word you didn't say, or a intonation. You can change it, and a lot of people don't. That comes from really understanding why you're saying what you're saying, not just saying lines and being lazy, and not just saying the lines the way you thought they wanted you to say them or the way you've seen them on TV. It's about really that much work where you really understand why you're saying it, and you can make bad lines good that way. But that's why you have to be writer-proof and director-proof.
I love that.
To survive.
Oh, I love that. But you had this really early on. I feel like your daughter has that already. So that makes me think it's a natural thing. But you tell me, what you're saying sounds like something like, over time, you develop this thing becoming writer-proof, director-proof, and then also learning things for the next chapter, directing. But you had that already really early. Can you explain that?
I don't know. I think that, what's really wonderful about life is that everything you learn helps you with what you have to do. Like, everything that, how so many people go to school for acting and then they end up doing hair, or they go to school for acting and they end up on Wall Street. Like, everything, my mom used to say, everything is grist to your mill. Like, everything you grind up and make into what you become in your life. And, I love that about the arts, but it's true for everything. Certainly to be a writer or, anything, you need experience, you need understanding, you need to suffer, you need to eat, and you need to love and hate, and you need everything. And everything that you do helps you in your path. I know that sounds esoteric, but it's true. And so I was a dancer, and I worked so hard at that. So that really helped me with a lot of things, with discipline, with understanding that, it's all about the work. It's all about the experience of the work, not about the prizes at the end of the day, because they're always hollow and empty. It's like, oh, look, everybody says I'm great. And then you're just like, oh, well, it's just me. It doesn't really feel that great. So I had a great upbringing artistically as a dancer in Minnesota. I saw such beautiful artists. I got to dance to such beautiful music, such incredible music, and do these crazy productions. I mean, everyone's like, you're from Minneapolis, you were born in a cornfield. I was had literally some of the most passionate artists that I worked with, and female artists, really passionate, sane, dedicated people. I'm not even as, nowhere near them. Even my own mother was an amazing artist, amazing. So I was lucky. So I had that kind of underneath me. But what I think is really interesting is that now is the first time that I actually really feel like an artist, now. It's, for some reason, now is the only time I've been given my own self the permission to say, I've created all this stuff and I've worked really hard and I deserve my place at the table. And now, at this advanced age, after 40 years creating, this is the first time that I feel like that, which is, and it kind of corresponds to my children being women and like telling me that, you know, that's how I should be, and also just kind of whatever, why Me Too and all of that kind of happening, and I'm realizing I didn't take myself very seriously as an artist. You know, it's important to take yourself seriously, but not too seriously, like so that you make other people's lives miserable, but really realizing that each one of us is such a unique expression, and that, you know, we're extremely special, every one of us, you know, and I'm not more special than anybody else, but that doesn't mean I'm not special. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really feel that way now.
Just looking into your career a little bit, like you were always more accepting of difficult people that you were working with, it seems, famously difficult, like Crispin Glover and Eric Stoltz. Like the stories are all that you kind of embraced those people as artists and kind of thrived off them, or it seems. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, I have great compassion for people in general, but for artists, and for, as long as they're good, their process, you know, doesn't matter as long as it's good. But ultimately it's better if people can be nice, for sure.
Yeah.
But sometimes, especially with certain male actors, their job is to kind of create chaos around them, to create power around them, and unfortunately a lot of times they have to do it by being difficult, to create kind of to create fear around them. It makes the other actors react to them in a certain way that creates power. You know, that, you know how they say that you know who the king is because he's the only one sitting, the rest of them are standing. But, you know, so I have compassion for that, but it doesn't, I admire artists that don't need to create any kind of chaos to get their work done.
Can you tell me some things you picked up from good directors that like got the best out of you as an actor that you apply now as a director, and some things that bad directors did that you like won't do now because they unknowingly showed you what not to do?
That's a really simple thing to answer, and that is that making you either uncomfortable or comfortable, making you feel either supported or unsupported. Those are, good directors make you feel comfortable and supported. Bad directors make you feel uncomfortable and unsupported. And that's really that simple. You know, you're so out there, like sometimes you just want to know like how far to go out, or like that they'll pull you back, or that you're with them. And that's what I really try to bring to directing. And I try to bring that to my acting too, like with the other actor, like I'm really with you. I'm there for you, I'm with you. I'll go where you want to go. I'll do, you know, I'll be there for you. So I think, and that is so special, and that's what I love about our business, is that you can make contact with human beings very quickly, like find their spirit and their heart and be there with them. And you don't even need to like go to dinner or whatever, and it's real.
Yeah.
You might say it's not real because you never talk to them again, you don't call them, you don't, you know, retweet them or whatever it is that we decide is friendship. But if you ever met them again, you would be there with their heart, and you are there and you meet them. And that's so beautiful. And I think that that's really what we're here on the planet for, is connection. And I love that about my business. I love to be able to connect with people in a really deep way. I think doctors have to do it. Like a good doctor has to do it. Like, you know, you walk in and someone's like in horrible pain or really scared, and you have to connect with someone you see they're really in a raw and vulnerable place. But yeah, it kind of happens when you're directing. And so what happens, or acting, especially when you're acting, so for me it's just really important to be on that person's side, make them feel safe, let them create, give them a safe space to create. And that, it's just awful when someone, I mean, why are you directing if you hate actors, which a good half of them hate actors? Now, I understand we're difficult sometimes, but what are you doing this for? Like, literally, that's all anybody cares about. Then maybe that's why they hate you. Like, you can have all this crazy stuff and things flying around, but you still need people care about the face and what the person is doing and who they really are. And that's the actor. And I don't understand. It's a very difficult job being an actor.
Well, let's talk about the year of Spectacular Men. I'm in awe of Zoe's choices as an actor in general, but especially in this movie. And then her sister has these choices, comedy-wise. Like, I'm so tired of this same old kind of on the nose, land the joke, same old thing. But in this movie, they're swinging big, and some of them don't land totally, but I even love those. What did you do to foster this? Did you see this happening, or did you create this?
Well, my daughter Madelyn wrote the script, and I really loved it. And it started out as a much bigger comedy than it ended up. And part of that is because I really love what's going on with comedy on TV, on cable, where you're like, HBO, all their comedies, you're like, this is a comedy? Like, you're like, what? Where's the jokes?
Yeah.
But what the thing is that with this new kind of storytelling, and not only with the jokes in this movie, but with the tears, I set out to not hit people over the head. I actually really love it when people are like, they laugh at this, and then they laugh at that, and then they cry at this, and they cry at that. Like, I didn't cue it up with music.
Right.
I didn't like go in for the close-up. I didn't try to hit the jokes, and I know how to.
Yeah.
I didn't try to hit the crying, and I didn't want a specific spot where people were going to laugh or when they were going to cry.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be different for everybody, and that they could discover what they thought was funny. I love it when there's like two random laughs at a place that I'd never heard before. You know what I mean? Because that's what I specifically just didn't want to tell people what to feel in this movie. I just wanted to let them feel it. And so I kind of did that with the girls in their acting, and even myself. I mean, this movie is such everyone says like a labor of love, but this is like, every frame is about love. The reason we made this movie was for love. The reason every second of this movie was about love. It wasn't about money, it wasn't about power, it wasn't about like fame or anything. It was about, we wanted to make a movie about love, about sisters who love each other. And you know how something's like knit by your grandma? Like every single stitch, you know, she was thinking about how she loved you.
Yeah.
That's how I made this movie.
You could feel it. You could feel it. You really could feel that.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's unusual for that reason. It's not commerce or anything. And it's also about love for women's stories, because they just don't tell stories about young women. For some reason, they disappear off the face of the earth in their 20s.
Yeah.
And then we disappear again at 45.
Yeah.
Like, where are the women in their 20s? Where are the women in their 50s? Like, they disappear. Their stories are not worth telling for some reason. The 20s is very powerful. It's almost like the teen years used to be when they did John Hughes. Like, everything kind of happened and all this passion happened then. Now I think it happens in their 20s. I think people go through these like difficult times. Like, you know, a lot of people say, maybe that's the reason they don't make movies. A lot of people say, like, I would never want to live through my 20s again. But they don't make stories. And so Maddie was like, it's so unique that she really essentially wrote this movie when she was 23, so that a 23-year-old girl's story told by her. When I was an ingenue, not one word I ever said was written by a woman. It was essentially all not authentic to my experience. So that's what makes this movie so interesting. And you know, in terms of them acting together, Zoe is like a world-class actress. She's so good, and she's just so good. And Maddie is a really good actress too, but I'd never seen her do comedy. Like, and she's really had really well-developed comedy chops that I was like, it was so delightful to see. And they have a very complicated relationship, like any pair of sisters. They have a very complicated relationship. They're very strong women. They're very talented. They're very smart, and they've always had a very complicated relationship. And you can see it. You can see
Yes.
it because it's really interesting. They don't have the same dynamic as they have in the movie, in real life, but they're both really interesting people. And, you know, it was a high wire act, you know, directing them. It was really because they are so good, you know? I think that's a really fun thing about directing really good actors.
Yeah.
You know, that's what acting is. It's like being out on a high wire and controlling everything you can until the moment you can't control anything, and letting that happen. And letting that happen, being there, being alive, being real. And they went for that. They did.
I read a quote of you kind of lamenting that no one is offering you the diva role that you did in Back to the Future 2, the Lorraine from Back to the Future 2. And you said, I did that when I was 23. I can do it even better now.
Yeah.
I guess I'm mentioning that because, I mean, we're sitting here talking about your daughters, and their wings are flapping, but there's some wings you have that haven't fully flapped yet. Is that true?
100%. 100%. Yeah, I feel like I hope I have one more great part or two. I've got to do Sally Bowles on Broadway. I did The Trouble with the Truth, which was a great movie. I did Back to the Future, and I did another movie called The Substitute Wife, which was a spectacular movie. I was pregnant with Zoe when I did that movie. But yeah, I mean, there's so many parts left in me because I am a really good singer. I'm a dancer. I'm like capable of doing like big. I mean, like I'd be like a great evil Marvel queen or something like that. But people just don't think of me that way. Unfortunately, I can do any accent you want. I mean, but I think my persona as like this really nice person is so strong that I can't overcome it. And that's it just would be fun. I mean, that's one of the reasons I did Dancing with the Stars, was just like I wanted to just like do something that people don't think of me doing, which is, you know, be like a sexy dancer or whatever I was doing, like all those crazy things that they make you do. And so I just wanted to show that because it's fun. But if I just have to be a really good director, that'll be fine too. I mean, I really enjoy not having to worry about hair and makeup and all of that. And also the idea is that once you get to be a little bit older and you've been given so much by such great actors and directors and people, I've learned so much from the wonderful people I've worked with, it becomes unseemly not to try to give it back. It's like you really should be a teacher at a certain point. And I know that directing shouldn't be equated exactly with teaching, but I feel like that. I feel like I can give back. I feel like I can say things to young actors or other actors. I can be like, you're so amazing. I can't really do the same thing when I'm an actor. You know, it's not your business to be like, maybe you should try this, or maybe you should do this, you know, because I have so much practical knowledge of acting, so much practical knowledge, and then so much kind of spiritual knowledge of acting, that it really does help me to give back. Because otherwise you get bitter. You're like, you know, that's the only way to stay on top of the game and not be bitter, I think, which is just death. So I'm avoiding that at all costs. And so it's happy to give back a little bit.
Lea Thompson, thank you so much for this.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate this.
You're so sweet. Thank you for listening.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of IFP, the Independent Filmmaker Project.